as young actors, you are meant to think that you are many different people, that it's not just play. You have to be like putting yourself in all of these different shoes of different names and characters and experiences, that it splits your identity before your identity is even comprehended. So you have these split identities. Amongst that, you have a split identity as, okay, now I'm just a working young adult, even though I'm a child, in an adult environment. And then also your identity at home when you're a sibling has to be very different because the pecking order of that might change if you start making money. And then you become like the most favored child. And like, it's again, that displacement. It's just not nuclear. And when you start to have sort of a split identity, you start to have magical thinking. I think that it creeps in, especially if religion is a part of your family culture. So for me, I had a Catholic upbringing, and I was praying to God a lot and thinking that I could have this relationship with God and that he would talk to me, right? But there is a higher power that exists in all of us. I truly believe that, which has informed my sobriety. But when we're talking about what Jennette was dealing with, it was informing her OCD because it was the wrong cocktail or the right cocktail to create a perfectionist child with eating disorders and OCD tendencies. So, she goes through a lot of, detail about her relationship to Mormonism and how her career became more important to her mother. And there was times when she told her mom, I don't want to do this. And the mom was just like crying and manipulating her and turning it on. This was our time. This was our moment. And she's just like, I just love my mom so much. There's nothing I can do. She's extremely detailed about her mom's health and just how all that goes on for her. It's a through line into almost like a vice around her spirit so that she can't break away at any point in time. She's mentioned in, some of her passages that she's read online. She was in a booster seat. I think she was still like 14 or something like that. And she's so tiny. Now, a booster seat, if you guys don't know what it is because you don't have kids or cousins or nieces or nephews, is a seat that literally just props you up. It's like you go from a car seat, and then from a car seat, you get this like mini seat that allows you to be able to wear a seatbelt properly so that you don't get into a car accident and fly through the window. So she's in a almost like an infant's seat because I think she's like 76 pounds or something crazy, right? And she's, 14. And, she's starting to work more frequently and she's starting to become more speaking roles on some Frankie Muniz thing. And her mom is very much controlling of her and all the things that she says and does, but she's still growing up. Like, as much as she doesn't want to, and she's already very deep into her anorexia, I guess, with her mom supporting that, she's still growing up. There's nothing that she can do. She ends up getting her period, and then her mom starts to teach her even more about that. Like, that's something that she has to, like, just figure out how not to have it anymore. It's terrifying. It's terrifying that people like this exist. And how does CPS get called, to like help someone like this? Or is there an informant that could possibly help a child out on set when they see that these things are happening to them? This is a call to action. I mean, like, truly, this is a horrible reality. And, we've seen Drew Barrymore come out with her recounting of how she was addicted to pills and horrible things at a very young age. And it's all fun and games. Everyone likes to post about, oh, this is just horrible, horrible, horrible. But you're the first to click on the link that says, where are they now? And there's only so many times that like people like Allison Stoner or even Jennette or even myself can be like, okay, what are we going to do before we don't really need the public's weigh in on this? We've got to just get together and we've got to like figure out how to save kids, I guess, and help them from this kind of behavior. There is no easy fix to when you're talking about a parent that's like this abusive to their child. There's just, I'm really at a, it's what's making me very upset when I'm recounting the story. But let me move on, okay? Let me just try to move on. So she gets to the opportunity to be at iCarly. iCarly is what she's primarily known for. And for a while, I think she's like cool with it. She really is like loves Miranda Cosgrove, which I couldn't be happier to find out that Miranda Cosgrove and her were friends. And even though they lost touch through the years, Miranda seemingly is like super supportive and sweet girl. There's something about Miranda that when I see her posts, she just has the most beautiful smile and she just has a lovely spirit. And who knows what Miranda's backstory was, but like, gosh, I hope she's doing okay. Nickelodeon was a very different network than Disney. I want to like be very clear about that. I had no idea just how different it was until I listened to this and then also kind of listened to the accounts from like people like Lexa Nicholas and just other people, right? Like I've gotten sort of a concept of what it was like over there. And it was a little wild and chaotic. And it seems like the executives didn't really know how to control their sets because it seems like they let their creators, who will remain nameless, be a little corrupt, if you want to call it that. I think that if you're going to have millions of dollars pumped through a person and you're going to say, here's all this money, don't fuck it up, then your employees should be a part of that, right? So if your employees happen to be children, then, I mean, there's got to be checks and balances, right? That creator's got to create an environment that's safe. Otherwise, they're a huge liability to production. And if you think that they're not a liability now, give it 10 to 15 years when all those child actors grow up, get therapy, and then want to come out against you. Just give it time. I'm not even threatening you. I'm just saying that this is what will happen time and time again if you don't hold yourself accountable as a studio executive and have checks and balances on your sets. So she goes on to talk about an unnamed creator and essentially saying that, this person did lots of, wrong things. Once she came of age, they put their hands on her and fed her alcohol, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that's like against the law. So I don't know how that's not being investigated. But, she lived in a very small-minded world where it was like work, eating disorder, and then she started to have sort of like a country, like singing career. And that was the first time that she was able to break away from her mom because her mom's cancer came back. And, she was finally making money and she was of an age where, she wanted to branch out and, kiss a boy or something like that. And so she experiences a lot of firsts because her mom isn't able to be over her shoulder when she goes on tour to perform her country western music. She starts to eat and binge eat and she gains a lot of weight, or so she thinks. And she's actually enjoying food for the first time, but then she also feels extremely guilty and deep, deep shame for herself by gaining any of this weight. And it's unclear as to what Jennette's like joy in performing is. I find this interesting because at some point or another, when you're a child performing and you're growing up, you become so conditioned to the highs and the lows. Again, it goes back to that dissociative thing where you don't feel the highs anymore and you don't feel the lows as low. And that's the only way for you to survive is if you just keep going. But what happens is that also takes the joy out of the performance and your love of the arts, which is why when people ask me about my kids and if I would put them in the industry, firstly, I say there's no infrastructure to really support their mental health, right? And secondly, I want them to love the arts. That is something that I wish I could go back and fall in love with again. I don't sing anymore. I barely act. It's not because I don't love it or that I don't have a great skill set for it that I've dedicated decades to. It's that I have a very complex relationship to my own talents. And it seems that Jennette can definitely relate to that. Thanks so much for checking out this clip for the Vulnerable Podcast. For the full episode, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. That link is in the description. Thanks again.